Welcome, everyone. Today's topic is analyzing deals in seconds. Okay, so one of my biggest challenges personally when looking at properties was how much should I pay for the property? How much would the property be worth once I fix it up? And most importantly, how much am I going to put into the property, right? So sometimes or oftentimes we get hung up on the details of analyzing the property. So we have developed a couple of rule of thumbs that have worked amazing, okay? But before you dive into the properties, you need to look at the geographic location of the property, okay? Because I understand that some investors really want to find out more about the property, they dive into the numbers, but without realizing that the location of the property is not good at all. Okay, so the first thing that you have to do, so I'm going to tell you the sequence of steps when analyzing a property. Okay, so the first one is going to be location. Okay, even before you dive into the analysis, you have to be aware of factors that will affect negatively the property. Example, if they are on a busy road, okay, that's going to have an impact on the property. And if you are going to buy and hold the property, the impact is going to be less. But if you're thinking about selling the property, flipping the property, then it's going to make a bigger difference. Example, so busy streets, near train tracks, near airports, near creeks, rivers, streams, or near highways, okay? That's the first thing that you need to do. So what I like to do is put the address on the map and find out if near any of those negative factors. That's number one. If you see that you're near or somehow near a river, a stream, a creek, you've got to make sure that you check for flood plains, okay? Now there's a scale 1 to 10. When it comes to the flood, so if the flood plain is, let's say, 8 out of 10, anything higher than 8 on a scale of 10 will require flood insurance. Okay, so the problem with that is potential buyers will not buy your property. So you're going to take a hit on the back-end value for the property if you're in a floodplain. As far as insurance, it could run anywhere between 500 all the way to 2,500. So it could be very expensive. But most importantly, the issues that you may encounter if you buy a property in a floodplain. We've had cases where the basement becomes a swimming pool, and that's a big problem because everything gets ruined. Mechanicals, laundry, drywall, then you need to take out the water, dehumidify the entire place, redo the drywall, replace mechanicals, laundry. So it's a really high ticket item. You're looking at like $10,000. And oftentimes, what you need to be aware of is that you don't necessarily need to be near a river or a creek to be in a floodplain. Example, Bellwood. Bellwood is known for having sewage issues, even though you are nowhere near a creek. Okay, and that's because the village has issues with the sewage system. So there's going to be water backing up into your basement, and that's a big problem. So you need to be aware of floodplains. Super, super important. So assuming location is good, you want to be in a quiet street. That's number one rule. And second, obviously away from any floodplain. Now, once you check mark these two factors, then you can move on to the analysis, okay? Now, when you are going to analyze a property, all you need is 3 numbers, okay? So you're gonna need ARV, after repair value, so how much you can sell the property for. You're gonna need the scope of work, so how much are you gonna need to put into the property to be able to um, attain top ARV. And finally, which you should know, is the asking price. Asking price, okay? So these are the three numbers that you have to know. Now the question is, how will you be able to analyze these in seconds, right? Like within 30 seconds, like a pro. So I'm gonna give you the rule of thumb. Number one factor that you need to know to identify what the rehab is gonna be is the square footage, okay? So square footage is going to become a critical factor. Now be aware that when brokers or sellers enter the square footage, it may not be correct. So this is what you need to be aware of, okay? Starting mid last year, technically appraisers are not supposed to take into account living spaces with a height smaller than 7 feet. So if let's say you have an attic living space and certain areas of the attic have below 7 feet height, it's not taken into account. That living space should not be taken into account as part of the living square footage, okay? So as a rule of thumb, 7 feet, okay? 7 feet, you can take that into account, okay? So now when measuring or looking at square footage, is super, super important that you understand where the bedrooms are. Because oftentimes you might be misled when people say, well, it's a 4 or 5 bedroom home, 2 bedrooms. But guess what? The bedrooms are in the basement. So they cannot be counted as a legal bedroom, okay, when they have bedrooms in the basement. So they have to be above grade level, okay? That's super important. So when you are looking, let's say, at a 3 bedroom, 2 bath property, you need to be looking at around 1,000 to up to 1,500 square feet. Okay, that's the typical size of a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. Okay, even though you may have a 4th bedroom in the basement, that's not supposed to be counted as a 4th bedroom. So you need to focus on the square footage. That is very, very critical. Look at the square footage. And now when you look at the square footage, you also need to take into account the square footage of the basement, okay? Because that's gonna play a role on how much you're gonna spend. Because a property with no basement, right? So the square footage might be, let's say 900, 1,000 square feet. Whereas if it has a basement, then it can go up as high as 1,500. So it is important to understand if you're looking at the square footage that has a basement or not. Now, how do you come up with the rehab or the scope of work, right? Within seconds. So once you know the square footage, so when you look at a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, let's assume the square footage is 1,500, okay? So that has a basement. You're gonna take the square footage and multiply that by $30 per square foot, okay? So let's assume your house has 1,500 square feet. So you're gonna multiply that times 30. $30. So your total rehab is gonna hit about 45,000, okay? That's what your total rehab is gonna be. For a 1,500 square feet, it's gonna be no less than 40,000. That includes labor and material. Keep in mind that you always need to add a cushion for unexpected. So a 1,500 square foot property is going to hit easily 50,000. So if you were to estimate the rehab, you should say it's going to be 50 to 55,000. Okay, easily for a 1,500 square feet. Now, this is a rule of thumb that has worked amazing. Now, Once you understand the rehab, what's going to be my ARV, right? The after repair value. How do you come up with that? Okay, so you're gonna need to look at properties that are comparable square footage wise, right? Number one, the square footage. Similar number of bedrooms and baths, so 3 bedroom, 2 bath, or 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath, with a similar square footage. And you're gonna look at properties that sold in the last 6 months. Okay, so this is the rule of thumb. You can go back as far as 6 months to find comps, and you can find them in ChicagoDealVault, Redfin. We're gonna go over some examples. So let's assume that the property asking price is 100,000. Okay, 100,000. So the question is, what should your ARV be on this property for this house to make sense? Okay, so it's going to be super, super simple. Even before you start pulling comps, you have to know how much your rehab is going to be, roughly. So in this case, we're estimating it's going to hit 50,000. Okay, so now you have 100,000 for the asking price, and you have 50,000 for rehab. So all in, so far, you are at 150,000. So now for the deal to make sense, so that you're able to flip it or rent it, you have to have at least a 25% equity, 25% equity in the back end. Okay, that's going to be very, very critical. That's going to guarantee a 20% return on your flip, and it's going to guarantee that the property will cash flow. So an example of that, if all in you are at 150,000, okay, you need an ARV of how much to have 25%? 200,000. So 25% of 200,000 is, so 1/4 of 200,000 is 50,000. So that is why you need an equity position in the property of at least 50,000. So the ARV should hit 200,000. Let's say if the ARV is 160, 170, 180, 185, then your numbers are going to be very, very tight. Okay, it's not impossible to make it work, but it's going to be tight. You have very, very small room for error in that property. So again, think 1/4 of the all-in cost, purchase and rehab, will need to be in equity. So 100 plus 50, then you need another 50,000 in equity. So the way we typically like to even look at when analyzing a deal, this is just another way of simplifying things. I just want to give you the numbers behind all the analysis. Is take the asking price, which you already know, and then add 80 to 100,000 to it. So let's assume that the purchase price is 100,000. So you need to add 80 to 100,000. So that should be your ARV. If that property, when you look at a property, let's say they're asking for, let's say 130,000, add 80 to 100,000. That should give you a hint that your first question is, how much will the ARV need to be on this property for me to even consider this property? So 130,000, let's say, is the asking price. Add 80,000 to 100,000. So I'm looking, the best case scenario, to have an ARV of about 230,000. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, 130 plus 80 is 210,000. So the ARV should be anywhere between 210 in the low 200s, 210 and up. And the rehab should be in this ballpark, the 50,000 ballpark, okay? Anything that goes over 50,000 will make your numbers be very, very tight. So what does that mean when you're gonna spend about 50,000 on the property? What exactly are you gonna do to the property? Very simple. You're gonna get the most of your money return-wise when you redo kitchen and bathroom. That's sort of like a must. You've got to do then the painting, light fixtures, light electric, and perhaps some HVAC repairs, roof repairs, a couple of windows, curb appeal, but that's about it, okay? So that's considered a medium rehab. So over 95% of the properties that you encounter will be medium rehab, okay? There's gonna be a small percentage, like a 5% of the properties that are gonna be like a gut rehab. They're like in the studs, where you need to redo every single system, flooring, painting, HVAC, electric, plumbing, windows, roof from the ground up. We're trying to stay away from those because you're hitting $75,000 and up on those rehabs. So for those, we typically like to multiply the square footage times 40 to 45. So think about it. If it's a 1,500 square foot property times 45, so that's going to be, let me quickly do it. So 1,500 square footage for a gut rehab times $45. You're going to be hitting 70,000 in rehab, at least 70,000. And it's not only the money that is a lot, but the fact that you're going to need to redo all the systems, you're going to need to pull all kinds of permits from electric, plumbing, HVAC, roof, windows, fences. You're bringing a pretty much entire crew of inspectors from the village. So the risk goes through the sky. So you've got to try to stay away from gut rehabs to maximize your return. Again, the business and the money is not in the construction. The money is in the investing, in and out as fast as you can. And for you to accomplish that, you have to aim for properties that don't need a gut rehab, meaning redo all the systems. You want to be able to do kitchen, bathroom, and the rest should be relatively light, okay? So again, to quickly analyze deals, understand the asking price, and then add 80 to 100,000 to it. Now, there's another concept that you need to be aware of, okay? Your max allowable offer. Max allowable offer. So what does that mean? That's the most you should pay for a property. So in this case, we're analyzing the property from the bottom up. So starting from the asking price, and then we're adding 80 to 100,000, and the rehab shouldn't be more than 50, 60,000. Okay, so we're doing bottom up. Now with the max allowable offer, you are doing from the top down. So you are starting from the ARV, okay? So you're gonna take the ARV times, here you're gonna multiply it by 75%, okay? Minus the rehab. So that minus the rehab, and that's gonna give you your max allowable offer. 75 minus the rehab, okay? That's your max allowable offer. So example, we're gonna work the numbers backwards. If the rehab is 200,000 times 75%, that's 150,000 minus the rehab, let's say 45,000, then the most you should pay is 105 for the property. So you come up exactly with the same number. So you have the option, keep this in mind. When looking at a property, you have two systems or two formulas to come up with your deal, no deal analysis. You either want to do it bottom up or top down. So if you're going to do it from the bottom up, you already know the asking price, right? Or perhaps you don't. So if you don't know, if you know the price, do the bottom up. Add 100,000, 80 to 100,000 minus the rehab. And for the rehab, remember, you need the square footage, okay? So typically we try to stay away from properties that have a square footage over 2,000 square feet, okay? That's too big of a house. So your rehab is, even if it's medium rehab, it's gonna go over 60, 70,000, okay? When the property is over 2,000 square feet. So the sweet spot is focusing on properties where the square footage is anywhere between 1,000 all the way to 1,700 square feet. That's the sweet spot, because your rehab is going to be below 60,000. Okay, that's critical to keep your rehab and construction budget tight. Okay, so that's rule number one. So again, if you know the asking price, do the bottom up. Like any property that you see on the MLS, let's say the property is for sale for 90,000. That property, if it needs kitchen and bathroom and cosmetic rehab, you're gonna be hitting the $35,000 to $45,000 rehab. So then again, add 80,000 to 100,000. So if they're asking for 90, then that property should appraise for, let's say, 90 plus 80, that's 170,000. Okay, so the ARV on that property should be 170,000. If you're not hitting that ARV, let's say the ARV is 150,000, your numbers are going to be extremely, extremely tight. So you never want to be in that position, because if you buy that property and then you're thinking about flipping, you might end up breaking even or perhaps losing. So your exit strategy, what role does the exit strategy play when you analyze the property? It's super important. If you're flipping the property, you must stick to this formula, right? Multiply these times 75%. If you're going to do a rental, it's a more forgiving offer. So you can afford to pay up to 80% of the ARV minus the rehab. Why? Because you're going to hold on to the property for the long run, okay? And also you need to look at the ongoing market rents, okay, so that you can determine your cash flow. But for the most part, what we like to do, even if we're doing a rental exit strategy, we like to pay the flip price. Why? Because we decide, let's say down the road, you know what, let's sell the property. We want to have that exit strategy available. If we overpay for the property, we're going to break even or lose money. So you always want to pay the flip price, even you're going to keep it for a rental. That's super critical. So again, you can do the analysis. If you don't know the asking price, right, then you need to, like for instance, when a property, they tell you, okay, give me your best and final offer on the property. What do you do in that case? Then you need to do the top-down approach. Take the ARV of the property, multiply that times 75 minus the rehab. And that's going to give you the most you should pay for the property. So it's super important to stick to those numbers, especially if you're going to flip it. Okay. Now, something that you also need to keep in mind that are deal breakers when it comes to the deal analysis are, aside from location and floodplains, are taxes. There are certain counties, or I should say neighborhoods, where the taxes are very, very high. Okay, like Bellwood, taxes are super high. A single family home, you're gonna end up paying 7, 8, 9,000. So when the taxes are so high, that crushes your cash flow. Okay, so you might not be cash flowing a lot. You might have enough back-end equity, but guess what? If you're gonna keep that property for a rental, your cash flow is gonna be crushed. So keep that in mind. Also, association fees. If you have a condo or a townhome, pay attention to the association fees. Sometimes it could be expensive, like $350 or so. So pay attention to association fees, bylaws, if rentals are allowed. But again, there's no guarantee, because down the road they can change the bylaws, and all of a sudden your rental now becomes non-rental, meaning that they do not allow rentals. So it's something that you need to be super careful when you are looking for condos, townhomes, because that can really affect your numbers. Okay. So again, to analyze quickly a deal, either do the top, bottom, or the bottom up, depending whether you have the asking price, right? Then add 80 to 100,000, and the rehab should be less than 50, 60,000. Okay, that's one. And the other one is taking the ARV times 75%, even though you're going to keep it for a rental, minus the rehab. So those are the approaches that we take when analyzing deals, okay? And that has worked amazingly well. So we don't need software, we don't need spreadsheets, nothing. We can easily analyze a property when we already know the location is good, no floodplain. Then when we dive into the numbers, as long as we double check the square footage, right? Then the scope of work is very standard. Taking $40 per square foot works amazingly well, okay? Now, there's gonna be only maybe 2% of the properties that you come across that require a light rehab, okay? Very, very small percentage, okay? So don't count on those. We've done maybe 1 or 2 that required a light rehab. So when we buy distressed properties, they typically need a medium rehab where you do kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, everything, okay? So when you do a light rehab, you multiply the square footage times $20. So example, if it's a 1,200 square feet property times $20, you're gonna be hitting 15 to 20,000, okay, easily on a light rehab. The minute you open up a house, you're looking at 10 to 15,000 easily. Just paint, appliances, touch-ups, cosmetic rehab, you're gonna be hitting 15 to 20,000. Just appliances themselves, right? They are about 5,000 for the microwave, the stove, the fridge, dishwasher. Right there, $5,000. Okay, so plus paint, we're looking at anywhere between 35 to 5,000. So right there between appliances and paint, 10,000. Anything else that you work on, you're gonna easily hit 15 to 20,000 on a very light rehab. That is why most of the rehabs are gonna cost no less than 45,000. Okay, especially with the cost of materials going up, 45,000. Before, about 2 years ago, you could do a rehab for 35,000, 30, 35, not anymore. So now you're gonna pay 1/3 higher. So what used to be 35,000 2 years ago, now you're paying 45,000, 50,000. So significantly increase in rehab expenses. Are there any questions so far?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you explain top, bottom, and bottom up to me again? Because I'm
Yes.
trying to break it down.
Okay, so the top bottom, you're going to start from the ARV. So these are the 3 pieces that you need: ARV, rehab, and then your max allowable offer, or the most you should pay. So the bottom, the top down, so you're going to take the ARV. So these are the comparable properties that have sold in the last 6 months that have been fully rehabbed. Okay, so beautiful looking properties that are comparable to the subject property. Okay, so let's assume that in the last 6 months you find comps in the 200,000 range. Okay, so now you are going to multiply these times 75%. So 200,000 times 75% is 150,000 minus the rehab. The rehab is going to be, let's say, medium rehab, 50,000. So the most you should pay for the property will be somewhere in the low 100s. Okay, so that's the top-down approach. Now, the bottom-up approach is where they tell you, okay, so the asking price, we're going to sell you the property for 120,000. So right away, you need to say, I'm going to add 80 to 100,000. So that property better appraised for anywhere between 200 to 220,000 or 200 and up. It's your price for that. Once it's all fixed and done, so you need to find comps really quick, right? That are over 200,000. If it's not over 200,000, then your numbers are going to be tight, right? And of course, you need to understand the rehab, the scope of work. But again, without getting hung up in the details for the scope of work, understand the square footage. Again, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 11, anywhere from 11 to 1,500. Okay, so again, the bottom up asking price at 100,000, and that should be your ARV. And the rehab shouldn't go beyond 50, 55,000. And keep in mind, the wild card are taxes. So taxes could crush your cash flow or can keep your property on the market longer. Okay, so that's something that you need to be aware of. Like Olympia Fields, for instance, it's a suburb in the southwest area or Chicagoland. The taxes are super high, right? 9,000 or so. So properties tend to stay longer in the market. Forest Park. Again, taxes are very high, so that's something that you need to be aware of because properties will tend to stay a little bit longer on the market and will crush your cash flow. So you can analyze the deal either way. So just be aware that you don't need the system or nothing. You should be able to have an idea what the ongoing properties are selling for once they're rehabbed. Okay. Did that answer your question, Kel?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Are there any other questions?
I have a quick question, Hugo. In previous videos, you mentioned that in order to find the rehab, we multiply the square feet by 2. Can we still do that?
You know, if it's a light rehab, yes, but you know, things have gone through the roof cost-wise. So most of the rehabs we're doing are medium. So that means we need to do the kitchen, the bathroom. So we're multiplying the square footage times 35 to 40 dollars per square foot. So we're coming up with the least or the like sort of like a light medium rehab is going to hit 30 35. That's the cheapest, but average we're hitting 40 45,000 when we do the kitchen. Because think about this, when you do a kitchen, for kitchen cabinets they're going to be, I'm just going to break down the expenses. Kitchen cabinets are going to be average, I would say 2 to 3,000. Appliances 5,000, right? So just in materials right there, you're looking at 7,000. Appliances plus kitchen cabinets, 7,000. Now you also need to add the countertop. If you're gonna do granite or quartz, it's another 1,500. So you are at 8,500 right there. Plus you're gonna need to do flooring, backsplash, GFCIs, perhaps some light plumbing, light electric. So just in the kitchen itself, with the labor, because you need to do demo, you're looking at 12,000 easily. 12,000 between materials and labor. That includes demo, materials, and labor. So 12,000. Okay, and then the bathroom, between materials and labor, you're hitting anywhere average, I would say, is 5 to 6,000 in each bathroom. So imagine if you do one kitchen, one bathroom, right there you have spent close to 17,000, 17, 18,000. Okay, plus paint, that's another 4,000. You're at 22, 23,000. Now you're gonna add flooring. That's super important. For flooring, between materials and labor, you're gonna spend 4,000, 4 to 5,000. So the 22 goes up to 27. And then you're gonna need to do some light electric, like light fixtures, change GFCIs. Then now you're gonna add 2,000, 2 to 3,000. You're hitting 30,000. What about light plumbing? Another 3,000, 2 to 3,000. You're at 33. What about HVAC? Either your condenser, your water heater, your furnace. You might need to do some of it. You're lucky if you don't have to do anything, but let's add another 3,000. So you are now hitting 35,000. And you have not even touched windows, exterior, roof, garage. So if we're just looking into the inside, right? So now if you need to do some windows, not all of them, but some of them, perhaps roof repairs, now you are going to hit easily the 40,000 mark. Go to the garage. What about the exterior, the curb appeal, tuck pointing, siding, gutters, landscaping? In the garage, the same thing, siding, electric, garage door, right? So now I'm gonna add another 5,000. Boom, I'm hitting 45,000 right off the bat. 45,000 just to make it presentable in a livable condition, and also that you can sell, right? So that is why when you're estimating the rehab for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you're hitting 45,000 easily. Oftentimes, people forget. I'm gonna tell you what people forget. They forget about the exterior, you know, like the garage. They forget about windows. They think they can get away with existing windows, and oftentimes, if they don't work, you're better off replacing the windows. So doing windows on a house, on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you're looking anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 labor and material to do windows, all windows, okay? So imagine, that is why you always need to have a cushion. Your cushion should be of about 10% of the total rehab. So if you're thinking my rehab is gonna be 45,000, add 5,000 for a cushion. That's unexpected. And believe me, even if you have an inspector, a GC walk the property, they won't see the unexpected. You'll see them once you start the rehab. You're going to start to open and tear things apart. That's when you find unexpected. So always take into account a cushion, because then when you are going to request funding for the scope of work, you're going to look good, right? When you are under budget. If you account for unexpected items, you don't want to underestimate, because then you're going to need to come with your own money out of pocket to complete the rehab. So that's not good. So that is why, yeah, rehabbing expenses right now will hit 50,000 easily. And it's important to spend the money in kitchens and baths. There's another space in the area, in the house, that gets forgotten often. And those are the attic or crawl spaces, okay? So you really need to pay attention to that, because you may find in the attic, you may not have insulation, which is not expensive, maybe 1,500, but you may have asbestos. You may have, and you know that's going to be extremely expensive to remediate. You're going to hit 8,000 to properly, professionally remediate asbestos. Asbestos used to be, they used asbestos in the past before 1978 for insulation purposes. Insulate the flooring, you know, underneath the flooring, they put asbestos around the pipes. Obviously not anymore. So you either don't touch it, or if you're gonna do something with it, you need to do it the right way, because that can cause health issues. And that's gonna scare buyers away big time. Mold, it's not a big deal. You can easily and inexpensively remediate mold. What's important is that you fix the root cause. So typically you have cracks in the foundation. Those are not a big deal. They could be repaired. You're going to spend maybe $1,500 to repair cracks. But you do need to identify the source of the humidity. Okay, if you have foundation issues will range anywhere between, I would say, 3,000 to 9,000. If you need to do like a drain tile system around the property, meaning that you're going to need to seal all the walls, put the system, sump pump in such a way that any backup of water from the sewage or from coming from the outside is not going to cause issues in the property. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. So again, those are areas that tend to be forgotten. Now, when we talk about analyzing the property, oftentimes investors question, should I bring an inspector, yes or no? My answer is yes, especially if you're going to flip the property. Why is that important? Because guess what? When you fix up the property and put it on the market, your end retail buyer is going to bring an inspector. So if you do that work ahead of time when you're rehabbing the property, guess what? You're going to anticipate potential issues that are going to be brought up when it comes time to sell the property. So why not address them and fix them ahead of time? Does that make sense? Because the buyer will raise a red flag on items not addressed properly from the beginning. So if you're flipping the property, you should always have an inspection report, okay? So that you know what you're going to need to address, especially if there are safety hazards. That's going to be very critical. I'm talking about asbestos, mold, foundation issues, electric issues. Those are high risk safety hazards that you must address. Okay, so you should always do a home inspection. That's sort of like an insurance or safety net. Okay, and again, you are not an inspector or a GC, so they may find really red flags in the property that you may consider backing out of the deal if they find really big structural issues in the property. So always do a home inspection. That's gonna be one of your best investment. So we've done so many of them. We spent probably $450 a piece. So we've done maybe 40. So think about that. We spent about 16,000 in home inspections. But here, guess what? We've made that money 3 times fold. How? Because number one, we either use that inspection report to get a credit from the seller, or we end up backing out of some deals that can wipe us out, right? So it's super critical to do a home inspection, okay? So that's when it comes to the rehab, because that's sort of like a very complicated area when doing investing, right? Because that's the biggest headache of all investors, dealing with contractors. So at least before you jump into doing a rehab, you have a really good idea of how much it's going to take to do it. Are there any other questions? Great question, Veronica. Any other questions?
I have one other question. Oh, go
Yes.
ahead.
I was just going to ask, with the foundation issues, how much did you say to put aside for that, or what it could
So
cost?
foundation issues, it's going to be the lightest foundation issue is going to be cracks in the basement. It's allowing water filtration. So that's going to be a couple of thousand, 1,500, 2,000. That they're not a big deal, but they could go as high as 9,000 if you have issues allowing or the foundation, in this case the walls, the foundation allowing water filtration. So then you're going to need to do an entire drain tile system all around the property where they seal all the surroundings. They need to add a sump pump. So it could get expensive, up to 9,000, right? When you have water issues in the house, that could be like up to 9,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why home inspection is really, really important. Are there any other questions?
I have one other question. I was going to say regarding the basement, how do we calculate the ARV or the rehab when a property has the basement?
Okay, great question. So you never want to finish the basement, okay? You just want to clean that up, paint the entire basement, put light fixtures, make sure that you don't have any cracks, no water filtration, because putting money into the basement is not gonna pay off. Okay, now how much will you spend just to clean up? Is gonna be a few thousand, maybe. I would say painting, making it look clean, assuming you don't need to redo mechanicals. So you're spending maybe 2,500, 3,000 just to make it look presentable with light fixtures, paint, um, and then why would you not want to finish the basement? Because finishing up the basement is gonna be expensive, okay? And it's just not worth it. That's not something where you want to put your money. In fact, we on a rental perspective, having a finished basement versus non-finished, it doesn't really make a difference. We discovered that. In fact, we don't like properties with basements because if there are flooding issues, it's a big problem. So you have three kinds of foundation: slab, you have the crawl space, and then you have the basement. Um, so some people or a lot of people like basements, it's fine, but typically for storage, because they're not livable spaces, they're not legal livable spaces. Therefore, you shouldn't put your money into basements. That's what it comes down to. As far as taking the square footage into account, you do have to take into account the square footage of the basement. Okay, when you're gonna do your rehab, but it's not gonna be too expensive because you're not finishing up the basement. You're just gonna clean it up. So it typically takes about 2 to 3 thousand to clean up the basement. Don't do drywall, just paint. Seal any cracks, paint the basement, replace light fixtures, and if you have laundry, put new machines, new washer, new dryer. Make sure that the mechanicals are in working condition, proper ventilation for the dryer, um, and that's about it. So about 3,000. Did that answer your question, Veronica?
Yes, it did. As far as the ARV, do we also compare it? Well, we also need to compare it to another property that has the same basement as well, right?
Correct. So let me show you. I want to share my screen to show you guys how we do the analysis on properties very quickly. Okay, so are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So for instance, we're sourcing some properties that are potential great deals from the MLS. So in this case, I'm gonna take this property in Allsip. So right now, it's the asking price is 100,000. Okay, we know that the ARV is about 200,000 for this property, and we're estimating the rehab to be 50,000. So look at these. These are the perfect numbers. Buy for 100, put in 50, and the property is worth 200,000. You end up with 25% in the back end. So our max allowable offer, column I in green, is $101,000, and the asking price is 100,000. So is this a good deal? We have to jump on it. So I'm gonna pull out the property. So let me show you how we analyze the properties in seconds. So I'm gonna paste the address. So the first thing that I do is location, right? That's number one. Is this near airports, train tracks, busy streets? No, it's not. It's on a quiet street. Okay, so that's good. I like to do the street view as because it's right there. So I just want to see what the property looks like. So it looks like you have a lot of brick homes. So that's really good, right? So you favor brick over siding all day long. So this is good. Old SIP happens to be the second top best rental market. Rents are through the roof. So you can get for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800, 1,850. So the rents are super high. So far, boom, I like that. So we've gone through the 2 check marks of location and let me go back. Location, no floodplain. Let me go back to the property address. I want to see the pictures now from the inside. So I'm just going to click on the first link, Zillow. Okay, so the first thing that you have to look when looking at a property, I like to do top down. So I like to look at the roof. Unfortunately, through these pictures, I can't see anything. And look at the windows and the storm door. They are like aluminum. So this tells me that the windows are gonna need to be replaced. Okay, these are old, dated windows. But the outside, it's brick, right? So it looks good. Then you have a garage. That's good. So that's the backyard. That's good. Now something that you see in the backyard, you see the condenser right here. So this tells me that the property has central air. Thumbs up, right? You want central air. Now I'm going to go, you have a shed right there. Not a big deal. So here, the garage door needs to be replaced. So you're looking at $1,000 for it. The roof looks okay. The siding looks decent. The kitchen, boom, that needs to go. That looks really dated. The flooring looks also in bad shape. Appliances, look at that. They're like from the 70s. I've never seen that stove before. So everything needs to go, right? So the bedrooms, so again, the windows are pretty old. Bedroom, this is the furnace room, utility room, okay? So most likely, you may need to do some HVAC work. The bathroom, look at this, it's extremely dated. So here, the whole thing needs to go, okay? You need to redo the bathroom. So let me see, is this, how many bedrooms? That's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, okay? 1,000 square feet. So let me ask you this, how much will the rehab be on this property based on what we've done? So let me tell you, did it have a basement? Yes or no? Yes or no? No, we didn't see any pictures of a basement. Oh, hello. No, right? So how much will the rehab be? Let's analyze the property in seconds. So I gave you a lot of theory. Now let's get to practice. How much?
I say 35, 40, Hugo.
Exactly. So the square footage is 1,000 times 40. It's going to hit 40,000. I want to have, since I know upfront we need to do the windows, I need to have at least a $5,000 cushion. So I'm going to say 45,000. Okay, on this property. That's simple. But if I show you our analysis on this property, we're estimating 50,000. So we're very conservative. So if we end up paying 100,000, it's a great deal. So right here, if I scroll down, look at this, multiple offers received, highest and best due Saturday, 4/16 by 5 p.m. So we're way beyond that, but the property is still active. Okay, there's tons of potential with great opportunity. So I just want you to get a feel for it. So this is a great deal, okay? You have the backend equity number on this. So let me show you again about the comps. So we analyze right here, every single comp. So this is the subject property, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Okay, those are the pictures. And then I'm gonna make this bigger. So these are the comps. So 2-bedroom, 1-bath are selling for sold price 187, 198, 200, 225. So the average is selling for 200,000. So think about this. Asking price 100, you put in 50, and it's worth 200,000. Is this a good deal? Is this a deal or no deal?
I think it's a deal.
Absolutely.
Deal.
Absolutely, it's a deal. So in fact, let's do something really cool. Let me look this up on the MLS and find out if it's contingent or not. I'll be surprised if it's not contingent by now. We flagged this property on the 14th, and let me, yeah, contingent, right? Absolutely, it makes sense, right? Because it's a great deal, it's contingent. So that's an example of a property we flagged that right away became contingent. So we found this property on the 14th. All offers were supposed to be submitted by the 16th. So the most you should pay for this property should be asking price. In fact, you can go a little bit higher, maybe up to 110,000, right? You should be able, especially if you're going to keep it as a rental, because OLCP is an amazing rental market. So I will be willing to pay up to 110,000 for this property. Let's say Lansing. Okay, so asking price 65, ARV 172,000. What did I tell you? If you do the bottom up, if I know the asking price is 62, how much am I going to add to it? 80 to 100,000. So this property better appraised for 160,000. ARV is 172,000. So this is an amazing deal. Now I want to see the rehab. Rehab is only 30,000. So the most I should pay for this property is $100,000, and it's for sale for 65,000. I know we made offers on all of these because when we identify these, we jump on them. So right now this is still active. Okay. Oh, I think this is the property that Repulsion is interested in, right? Repulsion, did you make an offer on this? Yeah, the offers are due today by 6 p.m. Did you submit your offer, Repulsion? Okay, so if you're able to let me know if you did. So I know we were interested in this property because let me show you the pictures. So you need flooring. Now this is central air, okay? When the vents are, the supply is in the bottom, you do have central air in this property, which is good. The kitchen needs to be done, the flooring, appliances. So again, this is the bathroom, needs to be redone. You have the second floor, needs to be redone. You have the basement that needs to be redone. So how much will the rehab be on this property? When you have a basement, the square footage on this property is 1225. So how much is going to be the rehab on this?
I say 50.
Exactly. 50, 55. So what did we come up with? We said 30. That's too low. It's not going to be 30 because you also have to clean up the basement, right? So for sure, it's not 30. It's going to be 50. So still, right? The ARV is really high. You have over 100,000 spread, and the rehab is going to be 50,000. So let's do the formula. 172,000. I'm going to do the top bottom. So 172 times 75%. equals 129 minus 50,000. So the most I should pay is 80,000, and it's for sale for 65,000. So does that make sense? People say that MLS is very competitive. Yeah, it is, but can you find great deals? Absolutely. Look how many deals we source through the MLS. Look at this. Pretty much on a daily basis, we're finding great potential deals that we're going after them. Okay. So did you guys get a feel for how you need to analyze deals super fast? Either bottom up or top down approach?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so again, most of the properties that you're going to be looking for are going to have, you're going to hit the 50,000. I mean, we can go over one more just for sakes.
Saying 50,000 on the rehab, Hugo.
Yes. So this is contingent already. So let me see. So here, if I click on the address, I just want to make sure location is fine. So location is okay. So you are not on top of a busy street. I mean, you're near the highway, and Harrison seems to be like a busy street, but you are not on Harrison. So location is good. And then the next thing I want to see is pictures, right? So I want to see how much it's going to take for the rehab. So brick, I love brick. I see the condenser, so that tells me that it has central air. I'm not sure about the condition of the roof, but look at the inside. Windows look good. So this is not too bad of a rehab. Look at this. So in fact, the kitchen doesn't need to be replaced. So this is a kitchen that you can keep for sure. So you're saving about close to 7,000-8,000 by having this type of kitchen right there. Look at this. The bathroom, right? You don't need to redo. It's not a gut. You don't need to gut the bathroom. So you can change the vanity, the toilet, maybe reglaze the bathtub. But here you're saving like 3,000-4,000 in the bathroom, 3,000 at least. Yeah, definitely the bathtub needs to be reglazed. So this is a perfect rehab for you to take on, right? Because it's not a gut rehab. The basement, you just need to paint it, clean it up. You don't need to finish it. Yeah, definitely here you need to clean this up. So here I see like mold on the wall. So here there's water filtration somehow. So this is something that is going to cost you thousands, right? Making sure that you fix the root cause of this humidity. Whoa, we have issues here with water filtration. So we might have issues with the roof. The garage is huge. This is like a 2-car garage. This is like a back porch. So yeah, this property I like, but I think you have issues with the roof for sure. So you have some foundation issues. Something is going on there with the roof, but it's evidently under. It's a great deal because it's under contract. 127. So this property should appraise to make sense in the at 80,000. So this should appraise for 200 and up. So let me see what we came up with. ARV 247. So you have plenty of room. The rehab 40,000. I'm a little bit concerned about the roof and the foundation. Okay, but we're saving a lot of money in the kitchen and bathroom. So 45,000 is very realistic because the roof, again, you don't need to touch the windows. You need to focus your attention in the roof and the basement. You know, so this is another great deal. So the most we should offer for this property is 45,000. How did we come up with 45,000? We take the ARV 247 right here. So we take 247 times 75% minus $140,000. So the most we should pay is $145,000 for this property, and it's for sale for $127,000. The result is that it's contingent, and it was on the market for like less than 10 days. So I'm so proud of our backend team, that the way they're sourcing deals, because every deal that we source is a potential awesome deal. Okay. And again, we're focusing on properties that are not good rehabs. If we see a property that is in the studs, we're going to skip it. Okay. Because that's not where the money is. So was this helpful for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, question for you, Hugo.
Yes.
So Hugo, so how should we come in, especially in this market right now? Should we just come in aggressive from the jump with our max offer, or kind of low just a little bit, just in case they do take it, or just be aggressive?
So great question. Whatever offer you come up with is going to be wrong 100% of the time. So even, my max allowable offer is going to be wrong. So we don't like to make offers unless we're forced to make an offer. What we like to do is negotiate and understand what the seller is looking for, right? Because any offer you make is wrong, meaning that it's either too low or too high, right? So even though we understand the numbers really well, we always like to build rapport with the listing agent, with the seller, to understand what they're looking for, number wise. So we want, number one, to understand what price they want for the property, earnest money, when they want to close, right? Those are the three main aspects, but price is number one. So before submitting an offer, when you submit an offer, that's when you pretty much ink the deal on paper. That's it. You always want to negotiate and get a verbal acceptance first, because when you submit an offer, first of all, it's going to be wrong. Then you're going to be wasting so much time going back and forth, negotiating, making corrections to the contract. So it's just a waste of time. You always want to verbally commit to a number and then just put it in writing. So, but oftentimes agents won't disclose that, confidential information about the client. So they're going to tell you, make your final and best offer by this and this date. So when we have no choice and they're not willing to disclose any information, then we need to go by our max allowable offer. Okay, we just need to stick to our numbers. It's just a math problem. So yeah, if we have no choice, we'll submit our max allowable offer, but we don't like to do that. We like to negotiate and build rapport first, because again, we're in the people's business. Always negotiate, and when we're dealing with brokers, we happily give up our commission. We let them keep both sides of the commission in exchange for some coaching in the negotiation process, so they can help us understand where we need to be. So when I talk to listing agents, my first question is, let's say, hey, John, I'm interested in your listing. Where do we need to be to make it work? Right away, straight to the point. So I want to test the waters and find out if they tell us where we need to be, what terms they're looking for. When that happens, then it's great, because then we get properties on the contract right away. Does that make sense, Amat?
Absolutely, Hugo. And one last question. So let's just say, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but let's just say they do accept that offer. As far as earnest money, because the thing that I'm kind of running into now is, like, if they won't earnest money and I got 3 or 4 properties, that could be 1,000. That could be almost like 6,000-7,000 that you got out there before that 10-day or 5-day, whatever day, the contingency. So would they take it if you just say, you know what, I want to get earnest money after the contingency?
Great question. So let me tell you the secret how you can get around that. So typically, how much should you offer for earnest money? Typically, is 3% of the purchase price. So if they're asking for 100,000, you're gonna need to put down anywhere between 2 to 3,000. Now, this is the key. You technically have up to 48 hours to render earnest money. So what you need to do is put the 3,000 or however much they want for earnest money. But let's say you get it on the contract today. You've got to inspect the property tomorrow, right? Because you still have your buying time, right? So you don't need to render the earnest money, have it in escrow for who knows how long, and then you inspect the property. No, you inspect the property right away. You get an inspector the next day, and if it's a great deal, by all means, here's your earnest money. Does that make sense?
Definitely
You
does.
you don't need to be giving earnest money left and right because then that's not scalable. In fact, let me tell you what we've done. Like there was a great deal in Dalton. Asking price was 55,000, and they had so many offers on that property because that property is worth 120, 125,000. It's in amazing shape. So trying to get to the through the agent was just impossible. So what we did was we want to get the agent's attention. So we said we're gonna give you asking price, 55,000, and earnest money is gonna be 50,000. Boom, we got a phone call like right away. So they said, Hugo, we really like your earnest money. So in my mind, I was like, I figured that you would call me. And then they said, okay, we have a deal, Hugo. I said, perfect. I'm going to inspect the property tomorrow. And they said, okay, fine. So I have a GC and the inspector at the property the next day. And they all told me, Hugo, this is a very solid, good property. You should go for it. And then at that point, then we knew that we had a great deal. So we did pay the 50,000 earnest money for that particular property, but it was a great deal with a lot of back-end equity, and it was MLS, by the way. So that was a lead from Diego. He's a deal maker that we were able to get it on the contract. So yeah, you see, those are just negotiating strategies. So obviously, you don't need to go to the extreme, but what I'm trying to tell you is that get it on the contract and inspect it the next day. If you don't like the property, if it's not what you expected, you don't have to pay the earnest money. But if it's a great deal, then I'm sure you will happily put the earnest money in escrow. And again, that earnest money is guaranteed, it's secure, okay, because you have the inspection contingency, you have the mortgage contingency. So unless you default in those, then your earnest money is at jeopardy. But for the most part, the sales contract favors buyers, okay? So yeah, your earnest money is secure 100% of the time. Unless, again, you go beyond those two contingencies, then you jeopardize your earnest money. And even then, guess what? The seller cannot keep your earnest money. You need to agree for the seller to keep 100% of your earnest money. So typically you end up giving up a percentage of it. But you do have to agree for the seller to keep your earnest money, even if you breach contract, okay? So that is why we use that strategy. Inspect the property, the next day you get it on the contract. Great question, Ahmad. Any other questions?
Hugo, I got a question. So your
Yeah, George.
spreadsheet, so how are you? So your spreadsheet, I know you have MLS access. Are you setting up the parameters in Zillow and the Redfin for notifications to you also? Do you have your parameters set up that way, or do you have it set up through the MLS?
Oh, through the MLS. So we set up searches throughout the 7 counties, and that's how our backend team flags the potential deals. So they are trained to identify great deals, potential great deals, where they're not good rehabs, where we have the spread that I was telling you. Every single deal that we source they have to have that spread of at least 80,000 and up, and the rehab shouldn't be a good rehab. If that's the parameter that we set, if that's the case, boom, we flag it, we do the CMA, we analyze the numbers, we know our max allowable offer. So when that happens, we have in-house brokers that jump on it right away. We try to negotiate it verbally, we try to get it on the contract, and then we worry about what we do with the property.
So I have a question for you. Actually, yesterday I viewed a multifamily property, and I went through the property, wrote notes, took pictures, went back, and then tried to assess what the value of or how much it was going to cost to remodel. This is a property that is in it's in Chicagoland. And this property actually has a basement. It's not finished, but again, you could put in another unit in the basement as a rental, but I know you say it doesn't pay, but I mean, for something like a rental, if you add another unit, you would add value to the property.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For a multi-unit, by all means.
Have you dealt with any of the zoning to try to get permits to add another in-law unit or in the buildings, or have you done that in the past or not?
Yeah, we've done that, and we tried to get a variance so that they could make it like a legal 3 flat, but no, they did not. They gave us the permits to do the work, but we wanted to convert that from a 2 flat to a legal 3 flat. They would not allow that variance.
But they let you finish it off, and then you just went forward and you rented it anyway, correct?
Exactly. But when it comes down to selling the property, it's not going to price as a legal 3 flat. It's going to be considered as a 2 flat with a finished basement that, it's got all the, kitchen, bathroom, and so forth.
Right. But as for the purposes of not flipping, but for the purposes of cash flow, if it makes sense, then that would be, you're saying, a decent deal. And let's say because we just have basically bare cement walls down in the basement. And the one unfortunate part is there's only one entrance. Would you have to make the second entrance to the basement?
Absolutely, we did that. So this is a 2 flat, and then we only had the entrance from the back. So what we did is we made a front entrance.
Okay.
In the front on the side. So we open up, right? Because it had the legal height. So today, what's important is 7 feet. So hopefully you have that height. And then, we did the front entrance, and then boom, we did everything. Like it ended up being a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. We did the kitchen. So it turned out pretty good. So for cash flow purposes, it's great.
Can I ask you, what would you like on a 1,000 square foot basement to finish it off to make it a 3-bedroom, 1 bath? What do you think it would cost to do that when you're in raw state, just the cement walls?
I think 3-bedroom, 1 bath, you're gonna hit, I would say 50, 45, 50, because you know where the expense was doing the bathroom. Because
the plumbing, yeah.
The plumbing for the bathroom, I know, was expensive because they needed to break the entire floor to connect the main to the bathroom.
Okay.
So, and then do all the plumbing for the kitchen. So the rough plumbing and the rough electric is what's expensive. So you're looking at maybe just 20,000 for rough plumbing, electric. And then we also had to do the duct work.
Sure, for the HVAC, yeah.
So all the rough HVAC, plumbing, electric is going to amount to close to 25,000. And the other 25,000 is just to do the flooring, do the drywall, complete the bathroom and the kitchen. So you'll hit 45, 50,000.
Okay. And then another question, Hugo. So when you do, two questions, I'm sorry. So with something, when you're doing your remodeling, when you apply for permits, are you the one doing the permits, or is your GC getting the permits for you?
The GC is getting the permits. We don't get involved. They do everything. So because you need to be licensed, bonded, so you need a GC license, and it's expensive to buy insurance. You have to, you know, get a pass a test to get a GC license. Sure. Plus the insurance is about $3,000 a year. So yeah, the GC does that, and they have subcontractors for electric, plumbing, to get those licenses. There's an exception, Bellwood. Bellwood is extremely tough to work with when getting permits. So for that village in particular, we did a homeowner permit. So it's easy to get the homeowner permit, but then we have contractors do the work. So we don't actually do the work. But yeah, that's the only town where we did the homeowner's permit.
Got it. Okay.
Because they gave us a nightmare to go through the GCs. You know, they want blueprints, they want
Sure
everything. So it's complicated and time consuming. Whereas a homeowner's permit, it's fast.
Right. Okay. That's what I was thinking too. But when you did your adding the third unit or whatever in the basement, was that a Chicago property?
Yes. So we did a GC. We hired an expediter for the permits.
Okay.
So we do have a contact for City of Chicago, the permits department. He's part of DealVault, and he can help. He can help you expedite permits. He's in the permits department.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, you did mention that before. I forgot. You did mention that.
Yeah.
And then for skip tracing, what was the name of the website for the skip tracing? I didn't bookmark it.
Oh, True People Search.
True People Search. That's it. Okay.
True People Search. It's a free website. We integrate through ChicagoDealVault with True People Search. Is one of the most accurate websites when it comes to skip tracing.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Hugo.
Oh, no problem. Anybody else?
I know I said one last thing, Hugo. So we doing 70% instead. I mean, doing 75 instead of 70%.
Yeah, 75%. It's a good percentage. We are doing 75% across the board. Why? Because the shortage of inventory. We're in a seller's market. So if we were to do the 70%, we wouldn't get any deals on the contract. So we're paying a little bit more. Technically, it's 70% for a flip, but now we're 75% because of the shortage of inventory. Everything is going off the shelf like crazy. So 75%. ARV times 75% minus the rehab.
Thanks, Hugo.
No problem. Anybody else? Hey, Oscar, did you get that property on the contract that you told me in Lemon? Keep us posted if you get that property on the contract. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. I hope you learned something new today. If you don't have access to DealVault, send us an email to support. We'll give you free access. We have a live event this coming Sunday, so I hope you come. It's going to be in Oakbrook, DoubleTree Hotel. So it's going to be live and virtual. I'm going to put the invite in the chat. So I hope you guys can join us Sunday, 1 p.m. Intensified approach from scratch to a wealth building empire. So we're going to cover really, really critical topics for you to speed up your investment building empire efforts. Okay. Yeah, there's going to be a replay for this, Margaret. Okay, so you'll see the property Friday, Oscar. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, everyone. If no further questions.
Good information, Hugo.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you, Marie. Thank you for joining. So I look forward to seeing you, everyone, hopefully in person on Sunday, 1 p.m. So thank you everyone for joining and have a wonderful evening.